Hey there, everyone. We appreciate everybody's patience with that. Sorry, our general presentation ended a little late. I'm letting everybody in. Although, thank you so much for understanding with all of that. Um, but I will pass this all over to you, Mr. Aldo. I'm watching people flood in. Maybe we just give it another minute. All right, Aldo, you are at 26 folks that are here right now, including Team Perry, Team Freudenberger. I'm not sure if I pronounced that last name correctly or not, but I think that is a fantastic last name. We've got Samantha and some Tylers that are here. Um, Aldo, if you're okay with it, I will just start pressing the admit all, and you can get started there. Although you are currently on mute. There we go.
Got it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
bud.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining in the meeting this morning. I understand that the general meeting went over a little bit, so some of you may just be making your connection getting in. I promise to get us caught up as we've got other meetings queued up for the rest of the morning. So really appreciate everybody taking some time out of their Saturday to join us here. So what I want to go over today is just general Alpine information about our program structure, philosophy, and some key things for each of you as parents as part of the program. And then when we get to our breakout meetings at 11 o'clock, where we have Ski Race Devo and age class meeting in separate meetings, and then 12 o'clock where our ability class, meaning our U16 and FIS athletes families will meet at noon. And there we'll have more specific program information. So first of all, just an introduction of myself. I'm Aldo Radamus, and I'm the Alpine director here at Team Summit. I am just beginning my fourth season with the team. I started in October 4 years ago, so just passed the full 3-year anniversary, and feel like I'm getting my feet on the ground finally, and getting to know many of you, although we have also many new families involved in the club, and I look forward to meeting all of you, and welcome to all of you. Thank you for being part of Team Summit. Over the course of my career, I've been really fortunate to have been involved in many levels in the sport for now what is coming on my 43rd year as a professional ski racing coach and program administrator. Of course, I raced for some years before that, so I have a lifetime of involvement in the sport, and I'm one of the fortunate ones who can say when you find a job you love, you never work a day in your life. So it is a privilege for me to be now part of Team Summit after many years of being involved with other programs. I started my career in a small area just outside of Chicago called Wilmot Mountain in 1978. I was still racing professionally at the time and coaching there part-time. I moved out to Vail in 1980 and coached there from 1980 to 84. Had my first stint with the US ski team as the head women's World Cup slalom and giant slalom coach from 84 to 86, and had one of my career milestones, or one of the most significant achievements by my athletes during the 1985 World Alpine Ski Championships, where we had 3 medalists are in both giant slalom and the combined, and actually had 3 of the first 4 athletes in the GS at that World Championships in Bormio, which was a real highlight to be able to be there at the award ceremony and watch some of the athletes that I worked with on the podium and listen to our national anthem and watch the American flags go up behind. It's in my memory as though it had happened yesterday. After my time with the U.S. women, I took on the role of Alpine director at the Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club in 1984. In 1986, which I held for the next 8 years. I then returned to the U.S. ski team as the men's World Cup slalom and giant slalom head coach. After 2 years with that team, I then took over the athlete development program, which I then was in charge of until 2002, when I returned to Vail and became executive director, a role that I held there for 14 years. I took a couple of years off from daily involvement with the sport. I continued my officiating duties as a FIS technical delegate, but spent 2 years working for a Swiss cycling apparel company, doing something a little bit different, being responsible for our business in the Americas and building our brand. It's a brand some of you who are cyclists may be familiar with. It's the brand Assos, based in Lugano, Switzerland. Then, as I mentioned, 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to return to what I really loved to do, which is coaching and being on the snow with our team, our athletes, our coaches, and really being involved day in, day out with coaching and running a program, and a little bit more later about our program structure. One of our philosophies in the program that we're trying to offer here at Team Summit is to really maintain our costs at as affordable of a level as we possibly can. And of course, as everybody here knows, the program fees are substantial, even with that effort. I think many of you may understand, or perhaps some of you don't understand, the actual structure of our organization, and that is that Team Summit is a not-for-profit 501c3 entity. We are separate from all of the ski resorts in Summit County as a standalone organization, and we have important partnerships with each of those resorts, both the Vail Resorts ski areas of Keystone and Breckenridge, the independent ski area, Arapahoe Basin, as well as Copper Mountain. And these are real opportunities for our Alpine program, but they also present their own sets of challenges in terms of our training, our coordination, our relationships with 4 different resort partners, and so forth. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But it's important, I think, for everyone to recognize that we're a nonprofit. We're always straddling that line between running in the black and the red. As a nonprofit, we don't have any tax liability, so we're able to utilize all of the funds, the revenue that we collect from our program fees, the small amounts of revenue we generate by hosting events, and drive that back into the athletes and into the athlete programs. We have to sustain our programs with that earned income. There are fundraising efforts that take place for Team Summit. Largely, those are focused on things that need to be acquired, such as vans, equipment, all of those kinds of things, helping to cover the overhead costs of the organization, and also to provide scholarships for athletes who have financial need and need that additional support in order to be able to participate in the program. So we're very much break even. The money we take in, we put out in support of our programs and in support of the athletes. So, trying to maintain the expense side of the equation is an important part of how we've structured our program and our staff. As I mentioned, I'm the Alpine director, which means I oversee the programs, the 3 principal programs that we have in Alpine. which are Ski Racing Devo, our entry-level program. It starts with kids as young as 7 or 8 and goes up to even in some cases some U16 athletes, some 14, 15, or even 16-year-olds. From there, the athletes typically will advance to our age class program, which is our U14, U12, and U10 programs, and then our ability program, meaning our U16 and FIS. So within our program structure, we have Samantha Streletsky, who is the head coach of Ski Race Devo, Jared Hedges, who is the head coach of the age class program, and then I serve the additional role of being the head ability coach and overseeing our FIS and U16 programs. So in a program that's our size, which is about 150 kids and their families involved in those programs that I described, oftentimes the staff has some dedicated administrative people. And one of the ways that we try to maintain that expense in our organization is all of us involved in the organization, myself as the Alpine director and head ability coach, as well as our other head coaches in Ski Race Devo and H class, we're also directly responsible on hill for groups of athletes and training those athletes daily. And so we have those multiple responsibilities in order to keep our staff structure as flat as we possibly can, minimize redundancy of responsibilities and also minimize the expense to the program, which then translates into our program fees. It's a relatively simple math equation that all the expenses that we have, they're funded by our program fees and reflected in those fees. In terms of a program philosophy, starting with Ski Race Devo and on through the age class and ability programs, our programs are ski racing specific programs. Many of the kids and many of you who are in the program gave your kids their start in the Intro to Team Summit program, which is a broad-based multidiscipline program. And Ski Race Devo is then the first step into a dedicated ski racing program that then continues to advance through our H class and ability programs. And both the amount of training and the specificity of it evolve as those athletes progress further in their sport and have more specific needs. Our overall philosophy is to build sound skiing skills in all of our kids, and in particular to develop a lifelong love of skiing and love of physical activity, love of sport that we hope will stay with them for their lives and enhance and enrich their lives well past their days as ski racers in Team Summit or onwards from here. It is also to provide an opportunity and an environment where the kids who are part of our program have a chance to develop as young people, young men and women, and learn some of those important life lessons that, if not solely taught by sport, are certainly significantly taught by sport to many of our young kids. Values such as commitment, perseverance, work ethic, sportsmanship, and so forth. And then finally, we're working in our ski racing programs to help our athletes develop and maximize their ski racing potential. Having an understanding that we have kids of varying ability and interest levels and varying goals that range from simply improving their skiing skills to aspiring to be among the very best in the world and advance to careers as collegiate or professional athletes with the national team. So we have a broad range of desired outcomes that we work hard to cover within our program. In terms of our training philosophy at the Ski Race Devo level, typically we're doing specific gait training 20 to 25% of the time. So what that means is that on any given weekend, that half a day will be dedicated towards gate training, and the other 3/4 of the time over the weekend is dedicated to free skiing and both directed free skiing or non-directed but supervised group free skiing, where the athletes are exploring the mountain and developing their all-around skills, developing their skills in the powder, in the crud, as well as on the groomers and the bumps in the trees, and developing into those well-rounded athletic skiers that that we know are the critical base of even the most specific and sport-specific, ski racing-specific types of outcomes that are desired by the kids. As the kids advance then to the age class program, that percentage shifts a little bit to be from 35 to 50% of the time gate training, and the remainder spent in those both directed and non-directed free skiing environments. And then at the ability level, our U16 and FIS athletes, that percentage shifts to be as much as 40 to 75% of the time involved in specific gate training, with the balance involved in free skiing and all mountain skiing. And so all the way through to our oldest and most experienced athletes, we value that time on the mountain, developing their skiing skills, again, both in a directed, meaning a drill-based or technically focused way, as well as developing those abilities and skills outside of the race arena, and the ability to ski in all terrain, in all conditions, and in all sort of situations. Just catching up on my notes there to make sure that I'm covering all of the things that I wanted to cover. Now, in terms of our communication, that is obviously one of the critical success factors for our organization, is to be able to effectively and consistently communicate with all of you that are part of our membership. So one of the things as the Alpine director that I work very hard to do is to make as much information readily available as possible, so that we're hoping to minimize the need for having additional questions, not having the information that families need to be able to make their plans, to be able to organize their family schedules, to know where their competitions are, and so forth. So the channels we use for that communication, and I think everyone has hopefully been receiving the Alpine updates, which I send on a regular basis throughout the year. Any of you who haven't received those may also review them on our blog section on the website, just at teamsummit.org, and under members, there's a tab where you can select the blog, and then you can sort the blog for Alpine, and you'll see those Alpine updates for the last several months that are there. I try to strike a balance between providing sufficient information and then also trying not to provide too much, so that it's digestible and easy to consume for all of you. But I realize that sometimes there's enough information to make everybody's head begin to spin. There is both there in that blog, as well as then on the Team Summit webpage in the Alpine section, a significant amount of evergreen information, if you will, information that doesn't change, over the course of the season, about recommendations for equipment, the passes that we'll need, the general outline of where we train, and all of those kinds of things, our regular, general training schedules and so forth. The vehicle that we then further use for our daily communication of information is our calendars in TeamSnap. And TeamSnap, I think most everyone has already joined. If you have not, then please contact your head coach if you haven't received an invitation, and we'll make sure that you're invited to TeamSnap, so that you can view the calendars, and then also so you can receive any alerts or other communication that might be might be more urgent or more last minute. For example, if the highway is closed and, we're delaying our departure from the base, so an alert can be sent out to everyone that, hey, don't rush. We know that the highway has been closed. We're going to, make a lap on American Eagle, and we'll return to the base and we'll meet you there. Those kinds of communications we will do through TeamSnap. The calendar, we try to make that, again, have all the information that the athletes need to know, that you need to know, in order to be able to have the kids at training at the right place with the right equipment, to know what's going on, know what the schedule is, when the drop off and pickup times and so forth are. Then we also have the information with regards to the race schedule, which, just a side note on that, the final calendar from Rocky Mountain Division of US Ski and Snowboard just came out earlier this week. So the fact that we haven't published that information any earlier than that is not a reflection on our diligence, if you will, but it's just on having the information available to us from Rocky Mountain Division with regards to the schedule. And there can, of course, still be some changes to that, depending on weather or, hopefully not, but possibly local restrictions in terms of COVID and other things of that order. So between the email updates, use of the TeamSnap calendar, use of TeamSnap for alerts, those are the way that we try to make information available to each of you to be able to find. We provide links to the different entities that publish additional information, such as US Ski and Snowboard, where you will find your race announcements, calendars, selection lists, all of those kinds of things, so that really everybody is as equipped as possible to have the information that that you need at your fingertips. And then, of course, when that information isn't available, or you can't make sense of it, or have otherwise questions of that aren't covered in the information, then absolutely we are available as head coaches and as individual program coaches to help answer those questions and provide that direction and provide that assistance to you when you need it. Having that information be current and be accurate is really one of our goals, because it's one of the ways that we hope to manage the off-snow expectations for each of our respective coaches, head coaches, program directors, and so forth, so that we can continue to be providing the support to the kids on snow and not have unmanageable off-snow responsibilities where we're trying to address those kinds of questions and concerns. And so it's very much in our selfish interest to make sure that information is there and in a way that each of you can find it. So that communication piece is an important piece for us, as well as for each of you as members, to have the information that you need, as well as to know where to find it. So finally, one of the things that, that's also very important for each of you to know, the parents in particular, is, how to best support your kids as they participate in our program and as they continue on in their journey as ski racers. Those that are just starting out on that journey, or perhaps have already been involved with it for 5 or even 10 years or more. Really the thing that we all as parents want to do is to be as helpful, as positive and supportive to our kids in their pursuit of their activities. And so really the most important thing, particularly at the youngest levels, and then even as the kids get older and begin to assume more of the responsibilities for their own activity than they might have initially had when they're just starting out, the most important thing that you can help ensure is that the kids are where they need to be, that they're prepared in every way for what the activity is, in terms of having the right clothing, having snacks, having hydration with and water and those kinds of things. And then in particular that their equipment is prepared properly. And I'm going to come back and spend a little bit more time on equipment preparation and the importance of that. Secondly, what's really helpful, and particularly this season, last season already, we began down this path. This season, we've even picked up more events that we're hosting, and we just need an enormous amount of volunteer help for hosting those events. We have Phil, who you met on the earlier in the meeting, who is our events manager and helps to organize and coordinate those events. He has an enormous number of them that he's responsible for across all of the disciplines in the sport, snowboard and freestyle, free ski, as well as Alpine. And he sort of provides the backbone for that. But we are largely driven by volunteer support for those events. For several years, Team Summit was not a big player in event hosting. And that's, of course, to all of our detriment. It means more events that have to be traveled to outside of Team Summit, where presumably families can utilize their homes or their regular lodging that they have over the course of the winter time. The kids are able to stay in their own beds, minimize travel expense, additional expense for lift tickets and so forth. And then, additionally, the kids benefit from being able to be competing on hills that they're familiar with and in venues and environments that they're comfortable with because of their opportunities to train there. So there's both economic benefit from hosting those events at home, as well as an athletic benefit to the kids to be able to race at home. So in general, what we try to do, and working with Rocky Mountain Division in the process of securing those events, annually we will bid on events in each category. So our goal is always to have one YSL event. That's our youth ski league that the Ski Race Devo kids participate in. One age class event, meaning for our U14, U12, and U10 teams. One US ski and snowboard sanctioned event for our U16 and older athletes, as well as some of the rising U14s who have an opportunity to experience scored competition before they advance to U16, and then one FIS event for our FIS athletes. And then whenever possible, one championship event, either an age group championship or a series championship, such as the Sync Championship that we're planning to host this season, or perhaps it's a U14 championship or what have you. So that's a lot of events to make sure that all of our kids have the opportunity, regardless of where they are, within our program, within the sport pipeline, to be able to compete at home. In fact, this year we've been able to pick up additional events in some of those categories. So in our FIS level, where there are both Devo level events as well as elite level events, we've been able to pick up one of each, so that we have, again, make certain that all of our kids, if they're not qualified for the elite level, that they also at a Devo level have the opportunity to compete at home. And the Sync event that we picked up is an open, so both the Devo and the elite Sync athletes are able to compete there in that championship at the end of the season. But again, that brings up a lot of need for parent volunteers to help with that, to help contribute to it, whether it's in simple tasks like handing out bibs and handling registration, to working on some of the on-snow responsibilities. There are just a lot of roles that need to be filled, and as parents, it is one of the great ways to be involved in your child's activities, to be inside the ropes, if you will, to be in the competition venue, supporting and being part of what the kids are doing. So it's positive in so many ways, and it's a great way to really strengthen our community and to to strengthen those relationships you have with other members of the community, as well as the coaches and the staff and the entire program. And then finally, just to come back to the equipment preparation, we as the head coaches, myself and Jared and Sam, we deal with a lot of questions about what equipment is needed, for the kids to be able to be competing successfully. As I mentioned, for each of the age groups, there's appropriate age-based recommendations on our website that are updated annually, so that as rules change or specifications change or recommendations change, those are modified. But they're all there and available. What is a much bigger differentiator and ultimately more important after the kids have the proper equipment for what they need and for their competitions, that their equipment is prepared properly every single day for training. This is something that's easily understood by those of you who were ski racers yourselves and grew up and learned to tune your skis and know what a difference it makes. It's maybe a little bit less obvious to those parents who don't have that personal experience from tuning equipment and working on it. It's no surprise that sort of throughout our program that we can pretty easily identify those kids whose parents had that experience, or even without that experience as racers, have learned to tune equipment at a high level, because it just shows in the daily progress and the daily performance of those kids, whether in training or certainly at racing. So unless you've spent that time often skiing in the kinds of conditions that race courses are, that we typically try to have them in, which is very hard snow that's compact and doesn't break down, in some cases is even watered, as our ordeal venue will be once it gets going here in the next few days, in preparation for NORAM events that are being hosted there next week. That having skis that are prepared to the sharpest condition possible every single day of training is absolutely critical. Whether you have that done by a professional in the shop, or you're willing to take the time to learn that for yourself, or the best approach, which is really a combination of those two, having the initial setup and some periodic maintenance done in the shop, but then having the knowledge and the skills and the tools to be able to do that on a daily basis, maintain that for a number of days for your kids when they come out to train, is absolutely critical. And it is the single biggest differentiator in the outcomes, the athletic outcomes that the kids can have, is having those skis that are properly tuned each day. Without going into a whole lot more about what that means, the only final thing I would say about that is, oftentimes parents have a lot of angst about what waxes to use, and on race day they may see other parents or coaches applying rub-on waxes and different overlays and things like that. I can tell you that 95, if not 99% of that effort and expense is really wasted. What is absolutely critical is the preparation of the skis and having those sharp edges, and just general all-purpose wax for certainly for every day of training, but even for most competitions here in Colorado, is competitive within kind of within the range of all of the opportunities that are out there. So that's one of the places it seems like it's very complex, but really it's quite simple, whether that's a HS7 in the Swix line or a Holmenkohl Beta in the Holmenkohl line. If you do nothing but wax with that wax every single day, the kids will be fine. They'll be competitive. But if they come out one day with skis that are dull and the snow is hard, and we're they tip their ski up on edge and expect it to respond, and instead it slides away from them, can be, damaging to the confidence and certainly inhibit their progression and their learning. So I've actually hosted a longer meeting about equipment preparation that was recorded, and the link to that is available. I'll make certain that when we finish up our orientations today, that links are made available for each of these meetings, as well as for that equipment preparation meeting. And there are several documents which are linked and additional information in the updates about that equipment preparation. And I know that that's an area also where any of the coaches will be happy to help you, to help answer questions, help explain that, and periodically provide opportunities for learning that with hands-on demonstrations and so forth. But I really can't emphasize enough, all of us want to help our kids do better and support them. And between being on time and being prepared for the day and having their equipment prepared, those are stand out as being the easiest and the most productive ways to support your kids as part of the program. As compared to, watching video with them or providing additional, tips, which we all want to do to help them improve and so forth. If we can have them well fed, appropriately dressed, on time, and with equipment that works, you've done 99% of your job of supporting them as parents. And then finally, the last bit of information, anybody who has been through a sports parenting type of course will have heard this before, but it's really important to repeat. And that is that as parents, we really want everyone to celebrate the effort and not dwell on the outcome, not focus on the results. And one thing that we know from all kinds of surveys, all kinds of age groups across multiple domains in sports, is that if the kids aren't having fun, then they don't continue doing it. And even if you watch interviews with some of our great ski racers like Michaela Schifrin or Bodie before he retired from his competition, when they're faced with that question of how long will you go, the answer is inevitably as long as I keep having fun doing it, and I feel like I can continue to progress. So it's important, whether it's a 7-year-old starting out and going in their first licensed competition, or a mature athlete who's on her way to becoming the greatest of all time, having fun and really enjoying the process is what's most important, and not dwelling on those things that can't necessarily be controlled, which is the performance of your competitors, the weather, the course set, all of those kinds of things. So if there is a mantra, really celebrate the effort, celebrate the process, and don't dwell on the result outcomes, whether they're positive or momentarily challenging. It's the process that will help them enjoy what their activity is and ultimately to become the best they can be. So I've tried to cover a lot of territory. We do have a few minutes left that I want to be able to address any questions that any might have. And again, as I mentioned, when we return at 11 o'clock with Samantha at Ski Race Devo, and I'll be running the age class meeting, we'll have some more specific program-specific information about competitions and so forth. So please save any questions you have about that until that time. But otherwise, if there's any other information that I can help address about program structure and all of the things that we've gone over today, or anything I might have missed.
Yeah, Aldo, I think you knocked that one out of the park. We did just have one question from Todd, and it's kind of a minor one right now, but He really appreciates your communication. Honestly, I need to read this line for line, because this is just fantastic. He being you, Aldo, is the best communicator I've seen in this sport. Agree 100%. Um, so thank you so much for being on top of that. But Todd's question was, is Team Snap considered the source of truth right now for long-term planning like races? Or should we be looking at another source, or are we expecting any changes to occur?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did, when the calendar came out a few days ago, go back through and update the Team Snap calendar with any changes. And as soon as we learn of any changes, then we'll make those changes to the calendar. The first place that those changes will be made, however, is on that Rocky Mountain Division page of the U.S. Ski and Snowboard website. That's where we monitor. And so if that's a place where you check regularly, you may sometimes be made aware of changes even before we are. A great example of that was that the NORAM schedule was just changed several days ago. And the first place that I found out about it was on the FIS site when those changes were posted. So, those are all public sites and can be checked, but we work very hard to make sure that that the Team Snap calendar is as accurate as it possibly can be. In terms of our training calendar, those are built out not through the whole season, but through, I think in the case of age class, through the start of the holiday break at Christmas time, and in the case of ability through the 13th of December right now. Samantha, I believe, is still building out her program or her calendar. She can talk about that at her meeting. And so some of those are placeholders. We don't know about some changes that may come in the schedule. And we are, in many cases, mercy to our host resorts as terrific partners and supporters they are, which they provide an incredible amount to Team Summit and to all of our athletes. There are sometimes unforeseen changes. Another event gets added to their calendar, which precludes training. Some other kind of unexpected thing happens, and so our schedule changes as a result. We try very hard to minimize those changes, and especially self-inflicted changes. We try to be really disciplined with sticking to the schedules we publish unless absolutely critical that we have to change them, which sometimes happen. Again, weather and unforeseen changes with the resorts. And then when those happen, if they happen, kind of within a 24 or 48 hour window of the event, then we actually will send an alert with regards to those changes, either alert everybody that there's been a change to the calendar through that feature in Team Snap, or send out a specific separate alert about that, because we don't think it's reasonable to expect all of you to be checking the calendar, right until you, get in the car the morning of to go, just to confirm that everything is the same as published. So when there is that last minute change, which we hope to have very infrequently, that'll be communicated in the form of an alert through Team Snap. And otherwise, as soon as we have information, we'll make the change to the calendar.
All right. That's all the questions that I really saw. If anybody else has anything, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can just ask your questions directly, or you can always plug it into the chat. All right.
Okay, well, thank you again, everybody, for taking time out of your Saturday. I hope that has been at least a little bit informative. And again, as questions arise that we can help you with, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the other head coaches, respectively, of the programs, or specific coaches within those programs. So again, thanks very much, and look forward to seeing everybody either at the age class presentation at 11 or the ability presentation at 12.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Aldo. Or for everybody here, I'm just plugging in his email address. Or actually, Aldo, should we plug in the email address now, or should we wait for the later presentations?
No, please put it in. You're welcome to put that in there.
All right. Just in case anybody does not know, he has a very complicated email address. It's aldo@teamsummit.org. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will upload this video to the family orientation page in probably 20 minutes. All right. Thank you so much, Aldo.